Okay. In 2015, we saw a slight increase in our fatalities, and the trend also appearing in our serious injury charts, as you can tell. We're investigating what those trends are, but we noticed this is a national trend with both fatalities and serious injuries. And one of the reasons why we feel that this webinar is important to include our local partners to help us to reverse the trend that we see in 2015. To do a network comparison of from 2010 to 2014 on lane mileage, see that local roads maintain roughly about 16% of the highways in Virginia, and about 18% or 20% of our DVMT on local roads or local maintained facilities. Tragically, you see, as far as crashes and serious injuries, about 40% of our crashes and serious injuries are occurring on our local roadways, and 20% of our deaths are occurring on local roadways. So we definitely need your help and input to drive down those numbers and make our highways safer for us to travel and use on a daily basis. So when you look at local maintained roads, you'll see that total crashes, about 60% of our crashes occur on local, so either rear end or angle crashes. 11% are fixed object off road. So we have a lot of issues with angle crashes and rear end crashes as far as the total number of crashes. But with the fatal crashes, you'll see that 32% of our fatal crashes are fixed objects off the road, and 20% of those are angle crashes. And leave out our bike and ped also make up about 25% of the total fatal crashes that occur on our local road system. So there's a lot of work that we need to address as far as our bike and pedestrian accommodations, as well as off-the-road type of crashes that we have occurred. Next, I'm sharing with you guys basically dealing with the total number of low safety projects that VDOT has a 6-year program. As of today, we have 45 total local projects going in Virginia that we're monitoring. Out of those 45, 33 of those are actually in construction phase, 10 are in PE, and 2 are in right-of-way. So we're well on the construction side of the project, but if you look at the next chart with the schedule, there's some work that VDOT needs to do to work with our local liaisons to keep our schedule updated and current. And that's important to us in order to make everyone is qualified for these safety projects and these safety funds. So we need to make sure that VDOT is working with you guys, and don't be shy about reaching out to VDOT for support and making sure that the schedules are updated on these safety projects. That's a component of being eligible for safety funds. I'm going to get into a bit about the local administered safety projects on local maintained roads now. The next 6-year plan is from FY18 to FY23. The dotted shades show that this money has already been programmed to VDOT safety projects or have already been programmed, so that money is unavailable for usage at this time. It's already earmarked for other safety projects. And then 20 and FY21, 22, and 23 is where we have the local funds available for safety projects on local maintained facilities. At 20 and 21, there's $11 million. In 2023, we have about $12 million each for those funding years, which brings to a total of about $46 million available for local maintained roads. So in FY20 23, we have about $46 million that we can dedicate to safety projects on local maintained roads, and that's what we need your help and support in submitting what we call top quality safety projects, because we still have limited funds. Even though $46 million is a lot of money, there's still limited funds that we have to allocate to safety projects on local roads, so every dollar counts. We'll support with that. In green are for new projects in the future program for VDOT projects. That $41.1 million for FY23 will be geared to VDOT safety projects. Implementation guideline manual is online on VDOT's external website, and also it's available on the VDOT Highway City outside page. Available to anyone who has access to a VDOT log on or use, like I said, the VDOT external web page to get to that document. Chapter 6 specifically us local administered safety projects. We discussed the eligibility and criteria for funding and the submittal schedule, which is different than what we're going to talk about today that's in Chapter 6. That's to the submittal schedule due to the fact that we're going to introduce you a little later on in this presentation on the online portal tool that will be available for submission of HSIP safety projects. We need to address the schedule change that will reflect that in the mail at a later date. But just to let you know, there will be a schedule change on submittal timeline. Chapter 3 in the manual addresses the benefit cost analysis and assessment process we have. With, it's an Excel sheet that's a little bit different from previous Excel spreadsheets that we had, but spreadsheet has will pertain all the data that you need in order to do a benefit cost analysis for your HSIP application or your proposal. Chapter 4, we will address the pedestrian risk assessments in this presentation line as well. Both are going to be part of the new process of the online reporting tool that I just mentioned to you. In March, we'll discuss a little bit of detail on how that portal and how accessing that tool is going to be available for you guys in the next month. But the one I really want you guys to focus about today is Chapter 6 in that line. Chapter 6 addresses specifically local administered safety projects. It deals with your eligibility criteria, your schedule, what required in your submittal package, who's responsible for delivering the package to VDOT, and the expected time to get a response back from VDOT on whether this your package has been approved for safety crime or not. To define implementation guideline, again, you can go to the VDOT.org, which is our external website. You'll click on Business Center, then the Traffic Engineering tab, and you'll go down to click on the HSIP Procedure Update. And the icon of the manual, where you just click on that, and it'll open you up to our implementation guideline. And like I said earlier, VDOT resumed funding for local roads in FY17 for about 5 years of not providing safety funding for localities, for administered safety projects, I should say, because we were always supporting localities. We just weren't for local administered safety projects at that time. $15 million of new safety projects were funded through FY19. And so, actually, when we opened it up to you guys, we programmed roughly about $15.5 million for signalized intersections, which was about $5.5 million, or systemic improvements like flashing yellow arrows or road diet. That's some examples of some very good applications that came in last year from the city of Danville, Chesapeake, Fort Suffolk, Virginia Beach, and Hampton Roads. Rona did an excellent job on that systemic applications for flashing yellow arrows. Richmond and Company did an outstanding job for their road dies applications and process. So we want to recognize and applaud you guys for doing an excellent job last year, and we're hoping to have more same type applications for you guys this year. That total of $46 million available for new safety projects on local maintained roads started FY20 to 23. Submit your application. Know that that's the stop date when the money will become available in FY20. Talk a little bit about the project criteria for local administered roads. No more than $5 million are active safety projects at any time in any one locality for safety projects, or no more than 5 active safety funding projects going on at one time. Reason being that we want to make sure that these projects are moving along and that the money is being utilized in a timely manner. We want any projects or process of having the funds be stalled on a project for some reason that would delay or make you eligible to qualify for safety funds in the future. So we make sure that we keep it manageable for all parties involved in it. Also, on project delivery, we're expecting at least 70% of your safety funds must be authorized for CN to receive new safety funds. again, we set these criteria in place to keep these safety projects moving along, and we want to avoid any relapse that we had in the past, having safety projects met deadline and schedule. So if no expenditure is on an active safety project within 12 months, then that locality runs for not being eligible for new safety funds at that time. For thank you, all localities have passed that criteria and they are eligible at this time, but we will verify when the applications or proposals are submitted to show you that if a locality is not eligible, we will work with you and let you know what criteria are missing and what we need to do to get you guys eligible for the next funding cycle. Again, project schedule and expectations. Local roles are the same with all safety projects. We have projects with no or limited right-of-way phase, and for those no right-of-way phase to be authorized within 18 months for construction. Projects with right-of-way phase must be authorized within 30 months for construction. And project closeout, we require them within 6 months of project completion or some thereafter. Again, this is to help everyone to make sure that these safety projects on these local maintained roads are viable candidates and they're very competitive with VDOT projects. And we just want to make sure that everyone stays eligible for the criteria. Again, on the other criteria we want to talk about, that localities may submit up to 3 proposals online for safety projects, and again, had no more than $5 million in cumulative safety funds relating on your safety projects or your safety proposals. We will by the VDOT that localities according with the VDOT local liaison by August 1st of this year on any safety projects that they're submitting a proposal. This is where we get into some of the schedule changes from the implementation guidelines on past. The portal will be available for submission on September 1st of this year, and project online submittal deadline is September 30th of this year. So we extended the deadline by a month for localities to submit their safety proposals to VDOT and have them enter into the system. Just to go reconcile with the new online portal to get all our projects on a similar schedule and timeline, so there'll be no conflict in schedule with other safety or 6-year program items that we're working with. On the 3rd at 10 a.m., we will have a second webinar to go in more detail on how to use this online portal. Marcia Ray or someone from her business section will help us with this process, and they're just on this tool, and they will help us answer any questions that we have about this online portal. Just knowing that August 3rd is a very important date for a webinar for you guys to set in, because all applications or safety proposals need to be submitted through this online portal this year. VDOT office will review and prioritize local proposals and submit to central office by November 1st. That's the same as last year and previous years that we've so we're at that deadline as far as VDOT is concerned. The only change will be on the local side. Your submission to the agency is a different deadline, but as far as officers are concerned, we'll continue to the same deadline that we had. And the localities will be notified, like I said, of your submission in early 2017 after everything's been reviewed and prioritized by the department. We'll send out information notifying you early 2017 of your status of your proposal, your application. Okay, and I'll turn it over to Margie.
Good morning, and thanks, everybody. As Tracy's already indicated, we are transitioning the application intake into a portal, which allows us to kind of gather all the information in a single location. So you all will be able to create your applications using this online application tool. One thing to know is that you will have to have permission to access that system, and some outreach will be going to the localities later this week, I hope, that will be reaching out to determine a single point of contact for your locality that is the organization administrator, and it's the person that will manage permissions to the online tool. And to kind of back up one step, this online tool is the same tool that we used for the HP2 or Smart Scale process last year, and we've enhanced it to include other application-based programs here at VDOT. And I'll have a couple of screenshots in a moment, too, to just share that with you, what it's going to look and feel like. Anyway, that organization administrator will be the person that manages who their organization has certain permissions and roles with that online application tool. Reiterate that the application process that you all may have gone through in the past hasn't really changed. The forms are very similar. The information that you'll be submitting online is the same as the electronic form. And Tracy and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but they could use the electronic version of that form right now to start gathering the information so that you'll be available, have it all ready to go by September 1st. And to reiterate, a WebEx training will be provided on August 30th at 10 a.m. With that session, we'll be able to help show you all how to use the tool and access it and give you the basics of the information that you would need to be able to successfully do your application and submit it. So that's log in, how to move through the tool, and just some of the other features that we'll have available. All of that will be available on September 1st. As you enter the online application tool, you'll come to this landing page. It's just a welcome, tells us a little bit about the program, but this is where you would log in. So again, you won't be able to log in if your organization administrator has not yet set you up with permissions. And so some additional communication about that later. Next slide. At the project portal, you'll have, you can see the different grant programs that we're making available to submit online this year. So it's a one-stop shop. And you can see that we have both the highway safety and the bike ped safety programs in here. You'll be able to see what you have permissions to see. So if you are only submitting for a highway safety project, you won't see their applications. Your organization administrator, that person will be able to see everything and kind of help manage it holistically from your organization's perspective. You'll see everything about your applications here. Next slide. So you can see in this slide that it's just a dashboard so that you can see the different applications that have been created and whether or not they've been submitted as well. So we have the pending and submitted status. So it's a dashboard that allows you to have a quick snap view of the different applications. I also have the ability to prioritize my applications within this tool, that I'll be able to identify of those 3 that I'm submitting, what are my top priorities, and using them all in one location. Next slide. The ability to use a prior application, and obviously the first round for us this year, probably not as relevant, but for the last year's House Bill 2 applications, as an example, the Smart Scale projects, if I wanted to submit that same project again or use information from that application that was submitted last year, I'll be able to access that and pull it into the system and then just refresh information, and instead of having to start from scratch, I can also create a new application from this screen. And there's multiple places with tools that allow me to identify how to create a new application or use an existing application. Okay. A key factor here that's going to be very beneficial for us is the ability to communicate between applicants and our district staff, so that through comments and alerts and notifications, we'll be able to communicate back and forth. So VDOT would be reviewing your application as you're creating it, and maybe before you hit submit, and says, oh, hey, your cost estimate looks off, let's talk about it. Something that they'd be able to communicate with you and share, and that would all be documented here in the tool. There'll be alerts that are sent to let you know that maybe you need to take some action. So it'll be a great way for us to communicate rather than a lot of email back and forth. That ability to really collaborate. So that's it. Again, on September, my bad, we will WebEx and be able to share with you a lot more detail. The tool will be available on September 1st. So to make you comfortable, our district point of contacts will have a lot of information. We'll be able to help you all as well as your organization administrator. Are there any on the new online tool that we'll make available? Well, feel free to either submit them through chat or send it to Mark and Tracy, and we'll follow up and give you all some help as needed. Thank you.
We wanted to take a few minutes this morning to talk about what a successful safety project proposal might look like. As we mentioned earlier in the presentation, last year we received a number of great proposals from our local partners that included things like flashing yellow arrows, high visibility traffic signal backplates, road diets, pedestrian improvements, and curb signage and delineation. And over the past couple of years, we've really focused on trying to do projects that involve lower cost safety improvements that we can spread across our highway system. Allows us to get more return on our investment and more crash reduction at a state level. What we know is just like in other places, our resources for highway safety projects is very limited. We have limited funding. And we also know that we have severe crashes that are spread across Virginia in locations. And so what we have to do is try to select projects on data-driven approaches and take advantage of low-cost solutions that can be spread across the highway system and have a greater impact. Because the ultimate goal is to reduce injury crashes in Virginia as quickly as possible. I'm going to go through a quick example with you of something we're talking about. That is a comparison of a traditional intersection project to a flashing yellow arrow intersection project. The traditional intersection projects, those typically involve moving curb and gutter or adding capacity by travel lanes or turn lanes. Often rebuild or replace a traffic signal and many times require right-of-way. What we've seen is when we do a traditional intersection project, they tend to cost $2 to $4 million. That's kind of middle of the road estimate. Many of these cost more than that and take 2 to 4 years to implement. And at even our more busy intersections where we have more crashes, about the most crash reduction you might expect to get through projects is 10 to 5 crash reductions a year. And if we compare that to a project that would deploy flashing yellow arrow at 25 intersections that have a history of left turn angle crashes, flashing yellow arrow deployed at a very reasonable cost. 25 intersections would cost approximately $500,000 and could be deployed very quickly in about a year's time frame. And what we would expect is that 36% of those left turn angle collisions at those 5 intersections could be reduced, which equates to about 90 crashes a year. So for a fraction of the cost, we've treated 25 intersections instead of 1 intersection, and we've addressed a lot more crashes. Our highway has some material out there that talks about a systemic approach. Basically involves identifying cracks that you want to address and certain risk factors, and then screening your highway system to determine the locations that you want to treat. After you screen them, you select which safety countermeasures like flashing yellow arrow or high visibility backplates that you want to install and prioritize those projects. And so we've been encouraging the use of this approach in recent years to deploy low-cost, high-benefit safety projects. The flashing yellow arrow, which we mentioned, is costing about $20,000 to treat an intersection and can help us reduce about 36% of our left turn angle crashes and be deployed very quickly. High visibility backplates, also called retroreflective backplates, are another segment. We have an estimated cost here of $5,000 to $7,000 an intersection. And the cost if you just are seeking to do the high visibility backplate. But what we encourage people to do is if you're already working on the signal, you might want to go ahead and consider putting that backplate up, which the backplate itself only costs a couple $100. It has a great visibility benefit, and what national research has shown is that 15% of all intersection crashes and almost 30% of our severe intersection crashes can be reduced simply by installing these high visibility backplates. Is currently deploying many of these across the VDOT maintained highway system, and we think this is a great safety improvement that doesn't have a lot of cost. Can also, like flashing yellow arrow, be deployed very quickly, and it's one of Federal Highway's coded and proven safety countermeasures. Road diets are also a type of safety project that see a lot of benefit in. Not only can they reduce many types of crashes that we see on a typical suburban or urban roadway, but they also can include things like bike lanes or opportunities for pedestrians. And so not only are we addressing some vehicular safety issues when we install road diets, but we're also helping some of our other modes of transportation by providing safe opportunities for them to use the roadway as well. If you implement a road diet with resurfacing, costs are very low, estimated at $20,000 to $30,000 per mile for pavement marking changes. And once implemented, diets can reduce crashes generally from about 20% to 47% reduction, particularly rear-end crashes, angle crashes, and side swipe crashes. And they also reduce the risk for pedestrians and bicyclists. Coordinated with resurfacing, road diets can typically be installed very quickly, and then this is another proven Federal Highway safety countermeasure. If you have any questions about road diets in Virginia, I would offer Randy Dittburner in Northern Virginia as a resource. Two road diets that were recently implemented in Northern Virginia received a National Roadway Safety Award this year for the crash reductions and other goals that those projects met. One of our most popular types of safety projects that is generally lower cost are traffic signal improvements, and specifically traffic signal timing improvements, which are eligible for safety funds. These projects often involve adjusting signal cycle length, split, offset, clearance intervals, pedestrian clearance interval, and pedestrian phase selection. Low cost of around $5,000 per intersection to redo the timing, but a very significant crash reduction benefit of 20 to 33% of all crashes. This work can be done very quickly, typically in less than a year. There are also several projects with a pedestrian focus that can be deployed at lower cost but high benefit. One of those is pedestrian refuge islands. We love to see some projects that involve a package of pedestrian refuge islands in locality, high-risk locations where peds are trying to cross the roadway, but it's a challenge to do so. Pedestrian refuge islands typically cost around $20,000 to $30,000 a location if you don't need right-of-way, and based on Federal Highway research can reduce 40 to 45% of crashes at those locations. Be deployed fairly quickly, within 1 to 2 years, and is another Federal Highway proven safety countermeasure. Some other ideas for pedestrian bicycle projects, pedestrian countdown signals at our traffic signal locations, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, hawk signals. In addition, high visibility crosswalks is a great treatment for pedestrian safety. And green bike lanes are something that Virginia has started to see installed in recent years. Green bike lanes are helpful in areas where bicyclists conflict with vehicular traffic. So, for instance, between a through travel lane and a right turn lane. In that area of potential conflict, a green bike lane can be a safety countermeasure. Both on the VDOT maintained system and in our local highway system, we still have a large percentage of our fatal crashes or roadway departure. Curves tend to be one of the main areas where those crashes occur. One of the most effective treatments for our curves is to make them more visible through installation of chevron signage or wider markings. It comes at a low cost, typically less than $5,000 per curve, and can reduce 30 to 50% of all roadway departure crashes and curves and be deployed very, very quickly. With that, we wanted to leave you with a couple of resources that we have to help you when you're trying to identify potential locations for safety improvements. First thing we would mention is our outside VDOT page. And think of this as a treasure chest that has all kinds of safety information there at your fingertips. We have safety plan information, crash data and analysis information, information on our safety projects, and also information on work zone safety. Once you gain access to the page, and we can tell how to do that, you just have to fill out a couple of forms. You can go and receive all that information updated on a regular basis. As I mentioned, we have all kinds of good highway safety out there for you to use. This is a shot of what the main page looks like. And to date, we have over 200 safety partners outside VDOT that use this page to gain safety information. So I would encourage you, if you don't have access, please let Tracy or I know, and we'll be happy to set up, and so you can have that information at your fingertips. One of the things that you'll find on that outside VDOT page is something we call the Tableau crash tool, which allows customized filtering, retrieval of crash data in Virginia. Have crash data that's as recent as 1 to 2 months ago. You can search by type of crash, by weather condition, location, and crashes are retrieved for you. It requires a Tableau reader software download that is at no cost, and there's also training that's being available online as well. A great tool to give you access to crash data very quickly and easily. And then finally, we wanted to also mention of our Tableau safety project tracking tool. Again, this requires that same free software download from Tableau. It provides status tracking and mapping of all highway safety projects in Virginia, including locally administered projects. And what we encourage our local partners to use this tool for is to verify the schedule information that's in this tool, and if it appears that your project is showing up as being behind schedule, but you know that it's actually not, this gives you a place to start conversation with your VDOT local liaison, so we can make sure your schedules are up to date in the VDOT system, so you get full credit and don't get penalized for having schedules that are out of date. I think we're ready to take your questions, but as Tracy mentioned at the beginning, we greatly appreciate the partnership with our localities and hope to see some great safety proposals this fall, and hope to be able to fund as many of those as we can. And thank you, and we'll take any questions you have.
You can either use the chat box or unmute your line, which I think *6. Hello, this is John Madera by Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission. Question
some of the systematic safety improvements such as high visibility backgrounds for traffic signals. VDOT have any plans to implement such systematic countermeasures statewide rather than have localities apply to implement these things piecemeal?
We do have an active project that is installing a number of these. How many locations are we installing that?
Somewhere 400 or 500, and they're being implemented as projects are built or as part of maintenance or just regularly as part of our everyday practices, projects, and that kind of thing.
Right. So to repeat, we've currently funded about 400 to 500 locations to receive these backplates on the VDOT maintained system, and have been developing guidance for their installation. And so safety funds are a great way to also make those available for our local maintained roads as well.
Well, they should apply for such implementation.
And that's probably the best way to accomplish high visibility backplates.
There's a quote of the slides will be available. We are recording this and we will make it available. We'll put it on the site and we'll also follow up to the listserv email distribution with the link to the recording. Questions? Here's one. Would raised signs around schools be considered an eligible project?
Typically, no. Law enforcement type of signs of nature are not eligible for HSIP funds. Okay. HSIP funds actually have to be geared towards a known safety or to solve a known safety issue in that particular locality. But unfortunately, law enforcement is not one of those issues that we typically expend safety funds on.
Well, we thank everybody for your time today, and if you think of something that you wish to ask, but you only think of it after today's webinar, feel free to contact Tracy Turpin or myself. Our contact information is there on the slide for you, and I look forward to receiving your applications.
Sorry, we had one follow-up question in the chat room. The question came up, would staff connections projects be eligible for BSP safety fund? The answer is yes. Missing links for sidewalks are an eligible criteria, and there are typically some of the type of pedestrian bike safety projects that we do receive and that we do on an occasional basis. So, are eligible, yes. Thank you.
We'll keep chat box open for a couple more minutes just in case there's any other questions. But other than that, thank you for your time today.